Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard. Michael Rudnan is in the house. As well, we have AVQ, Eric Hayes, Bruce Pollard says, where does the First Amendment stop? Melanie Keelan is in the house once again. Melanie, great to see you. Again, let's see. We missed you on Ask Egberto Anything. We had a great Ask Egberto Anything. Ironically, we had equal numbers of conservatives and progressives, 3-3. We only had 6 people. I wish we had a lot more, but 6 people, that was great. That was excellent. Anyhow, what else have we got here? Michael says, Egberto, I missed an important one from last week. AP says that Texas man ticketed for feeding the homeless outside Houston Library is found not guilty. A man has been found not guilty of breaking a law against feeding homeless people outside a public library in Houston, concluding the first trial to be held after dozens of tickets were issued against volunteers for the group Food Not Bombs. Friday's verdict in the sprawling Texas city is the latest flashpoint in the debate. Many American cities offer whether feeding the homeless is an act of charity or a crime that raises health and safety concerns among people who live and work nearby. The city of Houston said it will continue to vigorously pursue violations of its ordinances relating to feeding the homeless, according to a statement released to news outlets. Paul Kabash, lawyer representing Food Not Bombs volunteer Philip Ficon, told KPRC after last week's verdict, the law that the city has passed is absurd. It criminalizes Samaritan Forgiven. Texas are enforcing laws against helping the homeless, laws against feeding the homeless, as if the homeless aren't people. Texas is trying to codify evil. Let me tell you, this actually is a part of my story, right? Because I work with Foods Not Bombs. In fact, about just before one of the last interviews I did on my 3 o'clock show, on my noon show at KPFT, was the leader of one of the leaders of Food Not Bombs. I can't remember his name right now. I interviewed him, but here's the kicker. That woman that you saw on Channel 13 interview, she's a part of our board of directors of the Houston Peace and Justice Center, and her ticket was dismissed. And as she got home and we were in a meeting together, she says, but they are going to refile it again. So, like I said, Rodden, this hits close to home because, like I said, our organization, Houston Peace and Justice Center, is actually an ally of Foods Not Bomb. In fact, we do a whole lot of the fundraising for Foods Not Bombs that's out here in Houston. Well, I think it's a national organization actually, but our chapter here does some very good work. All the food that's given out is vegan food, and they do it next to the library, in the park next to the library. Why? Because it's a location everybody can find. And our mayor just doesn't get it. And not only our mayor, they just don't get it. If they really wanted to do something about the homeless, they would go ahead and say, okay, what we're going to do is if you don't want them at the library, we will find a neutral location in the area that we can go ahead and set up for those good do-gooders to come and feed the hungry. But the hungry are people too. And not only are they people, but many of them are thrown into the streets because our economic system is fraudulent. But so few people can realize that right now. Eileen is the woman who was who got a ticket and got it dismissed and was interviewed by at Channel 13. She's on our board of directors. one of our great members of the organizations. Okay, we have ABQ says error submitting reaction, Twitch messing up. Sorry to hear that. Benland says, everybody, hello, good evening. Bruce wants to know, where does the First Amendment stop? I don't know, Bruce, but I saw a lot of lawyers talking about that, where they said if somebody talks about uh, 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 going ahead and rob a bank, and they don't necessarily are not necessarily successful in robbing a bank, but their words cause the robbing of the bank, well, that is not protected by freedom of speech, right? So those are the things we look at. Eric says no college education dilemma of selling his business he started in America, 21 million. I don't know. You may want to tell us a little bit more about the story, El Señor Eric Hayes. Let's see what else we got here. Anyone on Twitch got this? I guess you got a broken page, huh? I haven't seen that, but we'll figure that out later. All right, we also have Michael Rollins says First Amendment stops when speech or criminal actions. Exactly. Yvette Avery Herod is in the house. Hola, Yvette, ¿cómo estás? Great to see you here, my wonderful union activist that gets results. Maywood says, I really like Food Not Bombs. Know them quite well. Exactly, Maywood. Michael says, Egberto, those who work with helping homeless people deserve all the love in the world, but honestly makes me wish our nation prioritized this issue so that there were next to no homeless people at all. Exactly, I agree. Bridge MCP says, hi all, sorry I missed Saturday. Had to change the OHV cap and well, other tractor crap. Well, we know you're a hard worker, my dear beautiful lady. Maywood says, make me that no, not no. Okay. Michael Ronan says, now we just have to wait for the conservative to mention that 1/3 of all homeless area are in California. It won't be long. Well, of course, if California owns about 1/6 of the people in the country, what would you expect? But folks don't do the numbers, right? Eric Hayes says Daily Coast on Earth video. Teachers Union President rant students. Egberto, this is something to see. Why would teachers be drawn to this? We are just trying to give our kids a place to learn things, and life should be guided by the parents, right? Not the schools. Not true. I don't want society solely guided by parents, because if parents are thugs, if parents are the scourge of the earth, they have beautiful children. Should we make the thugs or the scourges of the earth be the ones who mold those children into effective societal beings? I don't think so. You got to think these things through, Brother Hayes. Oh, like if parents know best. An ignorant parent is an ignorant parent. And I could be an ignorant parent. You know why I send my kid to a school? I send my kid to a school because there are a lot of things teachers don't know that I want my kid to know. I don't want to be the purveyor of just what my kids know. I want my kids' view to be expansive. Anybody who just sits, parents knows best. No, they don't. But you know what? Politicians can't go out and say that. That's why I could never be a politician. Do parents know what's best for their kids? Hell no. Hell no. There are some parents who know what's best for their kids, but I will warrant to you that most parents need society to really mold their kids. That was a great thing back in Panama where I grew up. We grew up in a society, a community where just about everybody was your parent. If another person's parents scolded you, you didn't go home and say, "Ma, do you know what Miss Rodriguez told me?" And then your mother run over to Miss Rodriguez to cuss her out, and that wasn't how it worked in Panama, in our days at least. If another parent scolded you, you kept that quiet because you were raised by the community, and that's how our community was. But now we have all this individualism, this rugged individualism. And rugged individualism is never good for society because you grow up with a bunch of foolish kids. Because if they have foolish parents, they will be a reflection of their parents. I want my kids to be a reflection of my good parts, not my bad parts, my good parts, and whatever they learn on the outside, and maybe come home and teach me. Like my daughter has come home and taught me a hell of a lot of stuff that she would not have known if she depended on me to teach her. So no, brother Eric, Absolutely not. Parents do not know best. Some may know best in certain areas, but they sure as hell don't know best. All right, yelling fire in a movie theater, not freedom of speech. You get that right. Eric Hayes, Daily Caller is garbage with numerous failed fact checks. Find better sourcing. If somebody gives me something with Daily Caller, I ignore it automatically, right? I don't even bother reading it anymore. Even, it could be right. But because of their reputation of who they are, I simply don't read certain rags. Now, I will read Fox News. Fox News has very good news in on online, right? Not only that, the local Fox stations, like here in Houston, they're just fine. Fox News, the propaganda station, is horrendous. Okay, so you got to know where to get your news from. All right, let's see what else we got here. Carl Cox says Lindsey Graham is a pile of crap, just like Trump. It never ceases to amaze me how many people vote support the stealing from the bottom 99% to give to the mega rich, and they don't know it. They say, just steal a bit more from me, please. Egberto, yep, I know, but California is working on the homeless issue, though not nearly as fast. Yeah, but California needs to get rid of even some of our liberals. Notice I didn't say progressive. Liberals that talk a lot of crap about wanting to help the poor or whatever, but they don't want certain things in their neighborhood, right? So let's be frank here. We want a progressive government, a progressive people, but don't don't sit down and think all these liberals are good people. They're just as bad. They're nothing but people that like the maybe conservatives with a conscience. All right, Paul Fleming says he's checking in. Welcome aboard, Paul Fleming. Michael Lee Grant says, "Hey, all from hot Texas. I know Grant is hot as hell. By the way, Grant was great in the meeting that we had on Saturday. In fact, I learned a little something from Grant. I learned a little something from both my liberals and my progressives in this last meeting that we had. I had to learn about certain things about the flu back in the 20s, I think it was. So great information all there. Breach says it takes a village to raise a child. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was raised by great parents and a great village. That's all I can say. I had great parents and I had a great village, and I could not have been who I am without both of them. I know there are some people who shook me up that if my parents ever knew that they had to shake me up, then they would shake me up as well. Anyway, Michael Rodney says, have you seen those parent teacher conferences which were broadcast? There's a lot of ignorant parents out there. Seems that becoming a parent doesn't make you much. No. And that's why I say when people say, let the parents decide. Hell no. Parents can be some of the dumbest ones out there. Egberto, you're wrong. Parents do know what is best for kids. If that or present, it is the freaking absent parents and no, they don't. Saying something doesn't make it so. If a parent is an ignorant racist that raises their kids and feed them and do all the right things by them, if they're racist thugs, if they're homophobic thugs, if they're evangelical people that don't care about anybody else, they aren't good parents. If they are science deniers, they're not good parents. If they teach their kids how to hate, they're not good parents at all. And guess what? We have a lot of those. What has been great in the school, why a lot of people on the right likes to go against the schools, is that the schools are great. The schools are putting in societal knowledge into the kids. Societal, I hate the word tolerance, but you know what I mean if I use the word tolerance. Societal tolerance into kids. The schools are the places where kids learn that we are more alike than we are different. A lot of crap that a lot of these parents don't teach their kids. Let me tell you, growing up here, even going when I came to the United States and going to college, I'll tell you a little secret that I have never said before. I never forgot one of the first girlfriends I had in Austin was a young lady from uh, Leander, Texas, in the Hill Country, and we were, it was great, and we had a great time. We went out together. We, regular date and stuff, and it was Thanksgiving, and everybody was going, and those foreigners who had their girlfriends in the states, etc., they would talk about going with their girlfriends or boyfriends to Thanksgiving. I kind of felt sorry for my girlfriend because I knew that I wasn't going home, or not going home, going to her home for uh, Thanksgiving. And how was she going to tell me that? Right? But I knew what was coming. So she tried every excuse why it is that, I was going to be there in Austin and not there. But that's how she was reared, right? Is her parents a good parents? They don't know it all. She came to the University of Texas and she became a person who respected and honored humanity, but not her parents. Are they great raisers of kids who know best? Hell no, they weren't. They put that young lady through hell. Okay? So let me get that right to you folks. No, parents don't necessarily know best at all. At all. All right. Bridge MCP says if I did something in school, mom would give me more of it. I know, Bridge. Me too. Me too. Michael Rodden says testing 1 2 3 restream bot. You're working. Check it out. Egberto is just one step away from arresting parents for what they teach their children at home. No, I'm not. I'm just wanting their children to be exposed to the right things. Lee Grant, I wish kids wilding in New York City this weekend could have had better parents. Guess what, Mr. Lee Grant? I wish so too. But guess what I can guarantee you? All those parents weren't a whole bunch of progressive parents. I guarantee you half of those parents were conservative parents. I guarantee you half of those parents were parents who lived on the island. We're, well, I won't go into that. That's another story. Maywood says, well, we were run almost exclusively by conservatives and Republicans for the last couple of 100 years. It has only been recently that we woke up. Exactly, we got woke and started voting the Republicans out, but still have a lot more to go. Local governments are still dominated by conservatives. Exactly right. Tom C says Trump finds it's easy to break many laws until one day a special prosecutor calls. Now he begins to worry about the verdict of a jury that could lock him up for life behind prison walls. The walls and laws. I like that. I like that limerick. Don't forget to keep those things all and post it to your section of our website, my brother Tom C. All right, Maywood says from Michael Rudnick to Eric, daily callers garbage with numerous failed fact checks. Find better source. And Eric Hayes says for the people that go around just bringing kids here and not being parents, well, that is sad and disgusting. Yes, it is. Deborah Moyer says the MAGAs are adult toddlers. Exactly. Michael Rudnin says Fox News Fox Business has multiple failed fact checks, nearly all of them in regard to presidential politics. Again, you have to, whenever you get news today, you have to fact check it. If you hear me, fact check me. The good thing about what I do is I make sure and fact check myself. So you're not gonna catch me in a whole lot of stuff, right? All right, Maywood, don't need the freaking video doesn't lie. Look at it and listen. Oh yes, you think the Daily Caller staged that? Actually, listen, the context. I can make a video say things. I am honest with the way I cut videos. I am very honest with the way I cut videos, but you should try things elsewhere. All right. Michael says back in the day, if teachers called a parent in to talk about their child, the parent would take the side of the teacher. Now they take the side of the child, and the children know it. Replying to Rudden, Michael Rudney, yep, and that is where and everyone in comes. I don't get that very well. All right, Michael also says if there are evangelicals who don't follow their book except to pound the cover. I know this is a Bible, this is a Bible, but they fail to live within it. Paul Fleming says, I know it's no secret, but in has to be said, if this was a person of color that caused a riot on the Capitol, he would already be in jail. Of course he would, but not able to go around the country spewing ignorance. True. Eric says, good parents don't need school to raise their kids. They don't need school to raise their kids. Then they will raise ignorant kids. It's that simple. If I was the sole interpreter of what my daughter learned, my daughter would not be the central complete person that she is. I am happy that my daughter went to Kingwood High School. I am happy that my daughter went to Shadow Forest. I'm happy that my daughter went to Howard. I'm happy that my daughter went to the University of Texas. She went to all kinds of schools that framed exactly who she is and was able to communicate with everybody. And that's the issue with evangelicals. They want tunnel vision so that you can be under the control of a few. but it's hard to explain that all together. Paul Fleming says teachers go to the schools and get an education just like doctors, lawyers, engineers. Why are we diminishing what these people are capable of doing? They are vested in time to your children. Exactly, Brother Fleming. Michael Rudnin also says, Daniel, public schools would expose children to diversity, and that exposure to diversity usually eliminates fear and hate. Exactly. Lee Grant says public schools are great if you want to immerse the kids in identity politics and racialized thinking. No, I think the church schools do a very good job of that. Let's see what else we got here. I've had the best education thanks to my parents being in the military. Children don't spend as many hours with their parents as you may think. Teachers do, their friends do think about it. Exactly. That's why I always talk about paying teachers a lot of money. I invest, look, we have the conservatives. They don't care that they don't care that the super rich, like the stockbrokers that do nothing for them, all these elitists make a whole lot of money, right? But the people that we should be happy to pay that kind of money to, collect the taxes from them and pay that kind of money, the teachers, they complain. Our most valuable assets isn't a piece of stock that we purchase. Our most our most valuable asset are our kids. You know, I could not think about something more precious to me than my daughter, right? So how dare you want to give a tax break to a stockbroker and force a teacher to pay for the supplies in her entire classroom where your kids are going to spend a whole lot of your time. The insanity of the right is just preponderously ridiculous. Okay, Paul Fleming says, no, I read that one already. Michael Renner says, Eric Hayes, if a source has shown to be SHIT, I'm not going to watch anything from them. Why bother listening to known liars? I agree 100%. I don't look, if a particular publication makes a mistake, it's understood. However, if a system continues to do so, it should be left alone. All right, Paul Fleming says, I don't discount homeschooling. My neighbor's kids, her parents got homeschooled and they very good people. So it's a choice just like anything else. That's why you have parent teacher conferences. They have curriculum for your child. And look, there are good homeschooling methodologies, right? I know people who do homeschoolings, but guess what else they do? They meet with other families, they go on bus tours, they go on museum tours, they learn about the way the world works, they do a whole lot of things together. But that's not what we're talking about. When Eric just comes and blatantly says parents know best in an insular way, that's absolute, and I love you, brother, but it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. It's qualifiable, quantifiable rubbish. All right, Michael Ren says, Egberto, if a publication has a long track record of lying, they should be put in the trash. I couldn't have said that any better. Anyway, let's get busy. Today we need to get started with our interview with Miss. Oh, did I get the wrong one with Mira Weinstein? I had the wrong one queued up, but here's the interview that we did with Mira Weinstein. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis. Today we are honored to have Mira Weinstein with us. She is the founder and organizer in chief of Organizing to Win. Anytime I hear organizing or organizing with the word win, that's what it's all about. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Myra. How are you doing today?
Good. It's nice to meet you. I'm Mira Weinstein.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for saying
Oh,
it
well,
wrong.
if you
Mi-
speak Spanish, it's like
yeah.
Mira.
Mira. Well, hablo español, so it's Mira Weinstein. Okay. All right, Mira. First of all, tell us a little bit about what got you into founding an organization, Organizing to Win.
Well, my whole background is in organizing and political campaigns. And so there was a period where I was looking for my next opportunity, figuring out what I was going to do next. And I was interviewing, I was researching, I was networking, I was meeting with people, and nothing really fit. It just nothing really seemed to be right. And I had a particularly weird meeting at the end of 2019. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of, weird. And I walked out of that meeting thinking, first of all, I don't want to do that. Second of all, why am I killing myself? What I really want to do is help bring people together to build power. And whether I do that with one organization or whether I do that with lots of organizations, it doesn't matter. That's what I want to do. And so that's how Organizing to Win was born, because I
Now,
had this view that I wanted to bring people together to build power.
now, Mira, you worked under, or rather, during the Dukakis campaign. You worked on that years ago. Did that influence, and all that went wrong in that campaign? Did that have an influence on you stating maybe we needed to do things a little bit different to reach the people we needed to reach? Because, as you know, Dukakis' loss wasn't really because of what he represented, but because of what others sort of imparted on him to represent.
Well, I was 18 at the time.
Okay,
It was
I get what she is young, audience.
well, not that young, but okay, thanks. Well, the first time I knocked on a door was 1988 during
Mhm.
that campaign.
Right.
And, at the time, I thought a lot of things. I was the only person in America who thought Michael Dukakis could win.
I did.
Okay, well, then two of us thought he could
Okay.
win.
Yeah.
But I also thought that if we could just elect all the right people, we could solve all our problems.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but none of those things happened.
True.
And so I started to I did a lot of different things. I worked with feminist activists at the National Organization for Women on these huge national mobilizations. And my theory of change, so to speak, started to evolve. I worked with union members on building stronger unions. And I worked with gun violence prevention activists. And I worked with teachers and former teachers who were fighting for educational justice in their communities. And my theory of change started to evolve, where I started to think, yes, we need to elect all the right people. We need to pass the right laws. We need to have the right leaders, but we really need to do more than win. Um, we need to build power. I was talking with one of my sort of formational organizing bosses. She was the first supervisor I ever had in actual organizing instead of political campaigns. And so I was talking to her about the difference between organizing and mobilizing.
Hmm.
And she thought about it for a second. She said, organizing is transformational. And I sort of understood what she meant at that time. So we have to win, right? We have to elect all the right
Hmm.
people. We have to pass the right laws. We have to have the right leaders in place. And we have to do more than win. With the
Mira, I mean, I love what you just said, because earlier today on my on-air program, KPFT 90.1 FM show, Politics and Right, a caller called in. First of all, an initial caller called in and spoke about those people that simply have given up on voting. And it was specific, he was specific to Black men not voting. And, a Black guy called in and he said, yes, he was talking to me. And yes, I don't see the value in voting anymore because, we don't really get a choice on who to elect. Here's what you've just said to us. You've said, wait a minute, it's not just enough to elect the people, the right people. There is more. And I was trying to explain to the young man that there was more. And I think that is what you're alluding to as far as organizing above and beyond the elected. Did I get that right at all?
I think so. I think about political campaigns as mobilizing.
Hmm.
I have a friend who is a longtime organizer who is really brilliant. And he says you have to organize before you can mobilize. And so
Yes.
organizing is this sort of intangible, squishy, abstract thing in some ways, where I think about the definition of organizing is bringing people together to build power. And when those people are together, when we have consensus, when we trust each other, when we have relationships with each other, we can move together to mobilize.
Right. Right. It's interesting, Mira, because um, and this is for the wrong cause, but it's exactly what you're talking about. If you look at the consistency of, let's say, the Trump voter, the ones that he can do no wrong for, there is a strong trust among that group, as well as trust even to a person that isn't trustworthy. But they're exhibiting all the things that you would like to see, simply, however, on the correct side of values.
I think so. It's tough to make that shift, right? Hard to put myself in those shoes.
I know.
And I think that there's something special and different about that group of folks. And I haven't quite figured out what it is. I think that there was similar um, following
Hmm.
to Obama.
Hmm.
But of course, I'm an Obama supporter, so I think it's different,
Right.
right? So it's hard to be. I'm not sure there is any such thing as objectivity.
Hmm.
So it's hard to sort of put myself in the shoes of someone who thinks about following Donald Trump the way that many of us follow Obama, right? It's
Right.
hard to make that equivalency.
Well, I think you answered that already, though. I mean, if you take a look at narrative, right? The narrative that these guys, and I get Trumpists that call into my program, and I am very respectful in the way I deal with them. But one of the things that they have, all of them, they have a narrative. And it's a narrative that plays to their culture, a narrative that plays to their beliefs, a narrative that, and when Obama came into power, or when Obama started his, what was the phrase again? Uh, we are who we've been looking for, and those sort of things. It is something that we could hold on to, and it felt real, right? To those people, you know, it feels real. And you're organizing, when you talk about organizing to win, it's generating that narrative, in my opinion, at least, to those, even including those who have a false narrative. How can you bring that to them?
I think about this in a couple of ways. And it's the easiest way to talk about it is in terms of elections, even though
Mhm.
elections are really more a mobilization than an organizing. But I think that there are elements of organizing that we can bring into traditional politics. And I started to think about this. This is sort of a long-winded answer to your question, but it's how I think about it. I started to think about this after the 2018 midterms.
Mhm.
I helped turn at least one of the Orange County, California districts blue in 2018. And then in the
Orange
general,
County. Wow.
yeah, well, we could talk a long time about that. I also, in 2018, I worked with a gun violence prevention organization on a member engagement campaign.
Hmm.
But after that election, I was talking with someone who was also involved in one of the flipped districts. And
Hmm.
she was telling me, we have all these fabulous volunteers who want to keep going, but we don't have anything for them to do.
Oh,
And I was like,
oh,
oh, dude,
oh,
there's always
yeah.
something to do. But it got me to thinking because I thought, in 2018, there were folks who voted for Democratic US House candidates
Hmm.
because they didn't like to see children in cages.
Hmm.
They're not going to be with us on gun violence. They're not going to be with us on certain issues,
Right.
but they didn't like to see kids in cages. And I thought to myself, those people are not ours forever,
Hmm.
but that's because we don't have a relationship with them, right?
Amen. Yes.
And if we could apply some kind of relationship building, traditional organizing tactics to these communities, then we may be able to shift them. So I was thinking about that and kind of spinning up the organizing campaign in my mind and talking with another friend of mine, a friend of mine who's been really instrumental in the shift that Orange County has made.
Hmm.
I was talking to him about this, and he said, well, that's right. And there are also folks that we're not talking to, and that's why they're not involved. And so I was thinking about that as you were telling the story of the caller, because there's also a community of people that we're just not talking to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, and because they don't vote because we don't have a relationship with them.
Right.
So why should they? There's been a 50-year campaign to convince many communities of people that politics is just not about you. Oh, don't worry about it. Politics isn't about you. And we're not talking to them, right? So why should they vote? Of course, they're not going to engage with us because we're not talking to them. And so it's these two communities of voters or potential voters that we're not talking to, that we have no relationship with, right? And that's the basis of organizing, is when you build a relationship, you can move into action together. And we don't have relationships with these folks. So I think there's a whole lot of things we can do to move some of the tactics of traditional organizing to communicate and engage with, these two different kinds of communities broadly defined.
Mira, that actually is not a long-winded answer. That was the perfect answer. And the reason why is the way you ended, the magical portion is we don't have a relationship with them. With that young woman who told you, I have all these people with nothing to do. They have a lot to do, building
Right.
relationships. And there's an interesting thing because I'm in Kingwood, a very red district, probably much redder than what Orange County used to be. And it turns out here in Texas that if we take a look at how the mixture of the church and the social organizations get together to nurture these people to the right, to nurture them with things that are and not really in their best interest, but they feel the love. They feel the love. So
Right.
they follow the love. So I think you nailed it. And with organizations like yours, uh, understanding that, because what we have, in my opinion, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong or not, is we have a lot of, and people don't like when I say this, but we have a lot of elitist organizations in Washington that seem to believe they know how to talk to somebody in Idaho or Orange County or Harris County in the redder areas, etc. But they don't. But those are who get paid to come with the analysis. And then a Mira Weinstein is trying to build funds for organizing to win, have to go scratch to be able to do what she just proved needs to be done. So,
Well, let's be clear. I'm not the only one who has this brilliant
no, no, no,
idea.
no, no. I understand. And I wasn't trying to imply that. I'm trying to say I know a lot of organizations like yours that are doing the necessary work to go out there and do exactly what you said, right? But again, they need the recognition, they need the funding, they need all these types of actions to actually get moving.
Yeah.
Mira, look, give me a closer. Tell me what I should have asked you that I didn't. Tell me something that you wanted us to cover more in detail. Let's close this baby out.
I think we can't be afraid to talk about power. Power is neutral, and sometimes we get hung up or intimidated out of talking about power. Yet, power is the ability to act. And if what we want to do is build inclusive, equitable communities, we need to talk about power. Not power over, but power with. And so that the meaning of organizing is bringing people together to build power together, right? And the key words being people together and power. Um, and so I think that if we have that opinion or that perspective on power, we're not afraid to build it because it's power with, not power over.
Mira Weinstein, founder and organizer of Organizing to Win. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. Please keep up that great work that you're doing.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was a great opportunity to talk about the things I love most.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. And there is the Flintstone cart, as per the one and only Brige MCP. That is funny. I remember I used to be hooked on the Flintstones. Uh, 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 it used to be called something Piedras. I've never watched the Flintstone in English. I've only watched the Flintstones in Spanish, and it used to be called something Piedras. I don't remember what it was. Piedras means stones. Ay, ay, ay. But it was so funny in Spanish. I can imagine how it would have been in English, but I never actually watched it in English. Anyhow, let's see what else we got here. By the way, I just want to give some kudos to our posse here, the PDR posse, because and even in our Pica Piedra, ay ay ay, los Pica Piedras. I love you, Rodney. You can find everything all the times, man. That's great. Los Pica Piedras. Okay, but anyhow, here is the thing. This is important. We had a great discussions in our Ask Egberto Anything on Saturday. And interestingly, we only had 6 people this time. I want this stuff to grow to 30, 40 people, but we only had 6 people. Now, here's the thing. There were 3 conservatives and 3 progressives. And we didn't agree necessarily, but we had substantive discussions. And there are times that I got corrected by Lee Grant, and I told him about, hey, man, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that. I remember not forgetting about a pandemic previous to our current stuff that he reminded me of, and it's like, oh God, I forgot about that. And within the conversations we all exchange, right? I'm looking at our stuff right here, and I'm noticing that May Wood comes and he tells Eric Hayes, hey, you were actually right, Eric, about that. I didn't realize that this particular person was appointed by Obama and not a conservative or something like that. The reason I'm bringing that up and the reason that warms the heart is I want us to get back to the position where it is okay for us to have screwed up on something, be corrected by somebody else, whether they are of your ideology or not, and simply say, "Hey, thanks, man. I didn't realize that. I forgot about that, or I learned something new." That is how, because like I said, most of us understand. Most of us want the same things, like I say all of the time, right? A lot of folks don't want to quite accept that, but that is the truth. And when I see these kind of a commentaries, it makes me feel good. It really tells me that we are doing something right. Here we can have a community, our online community right now that listens to the live version of Politics Done Right, and we can, we can pull each other's strain and do all these things, but know that we are this one community. All right, let's go ahead and listen to Brother Lindsey. Lindsey Graham did some interesting work I think it was over the weekend, but check it out. Well, Lindsey Graham continued to make a fool of himself. You won't believe what he said at a conservative, a Republican event. This is astounding. Check this out, then we'll take it on the other side.
Here's the person at the head of the class for humiliating themselves. Somebody who said after January 6th he'd had enough and then got intimidated and actually groveled anymore. Lindsey Graham. This is Lindsey at a Republican Party dinner Saturday in his home state.
People ask, what happened with you and Trump? I said, well, he beat me like a drum, and I acknowledged that he did. He sort of liked hearing that, but we found something in common. I've come to like him, and he likes him, and that gets us through 18 holes of golf. One thing I can tell you, you better not screw with this guy or you regret it.
Jonathan Lemire, I gotta say, I don't know how you'd do that. It's not in me. No. It never was. I don't think it's in most people. I guess
You
the
thought he
question
was
I
sort of
keep
joking?
asking is, what's worth that? And I can tell you, having a congressional pin is not. In fact, I don't think anything's worth humiliating yourself the way Lindsey does. But, I mean, we can expand this out again. Donald Trump threatened a federal prosecutor saying, I'm coming after you, calling him deranged on stage. No doubt knowing that this was going to amp up the number of death threats that Jack Smith had. And yet, Republicans in the House and the Senate sit meekly by, quietly by, and continue to act like this is normal.
One has to ask the question, what does Donald Trump have on Lindsey Graham? What does Donald Trump have on a lot of these politicians? It can't be just about being elected. After all, Lindsey still has some more time on his contract, if you will. Um, there must be something that President Trump has on key Republicans that's holding the reins and that's allowing others to follow because they don't know exactly what he has on them. And you know what? I definitely don't know this for a fact, but you've got to ask yourself the question. Who allows themselves with that stature, the stature of a senator of the United States, to be so ridiculed, to be so taken advantage of? Who allows that into their reality? Who allows that into their reality? Now, let me tell you something, my dear brother Ledo. Ledo says it's hard to reach out to people you hate. The hate for evangelicals is strong on PDR. Let me make a correction. I can't hate evangelicals. My sister, who I love dearly, I love to death, I will defend her to the death. I have other friends right here in Houston, devout evangelicals. My goddaughter, devout evangelical, someone who even loves, what's the name of the, God, I can't remember her name. No, 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 I don't hate them at all. I do not hate them at all. Now, I want to hold the pastors who've screwed with their minds, I'd like to hold them accountable because everything that they preach is anti what Jesus really stood for. And you see, I have the right to speak about that because I was born a Catholic, converted to a Baptist Christian, converted to one of the most Bible riveting groups, Maranatha, for a few months while I was in college. And it's only after I really studied the Bible in detail that I decided it wasn't for me. It's for a lot of people, it wasn't for me, right? I was a humanist, and I couldn't abide by some of the things that I don't won't go into that right now. So no, 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 no. I definitely don't hate evangelicals. What I do know is that today's evangelicals do not live up to the spirit of Jesus Christ. Their worship of capital, their worship of money, their hate for the indigent, their unsupport, their hate for women in general. And when I say hate for women in general, that's exactly what I mean. That is exactly what I mean, and I don't say that facetiously. If your ideology supersedes the life of a woman, that says something. So my thing is never to hate the evangelicals or anybody else, but to actually seek to break bread and change minds. Okay, Michael Ronin says Jesus' core messages were heal the sick, feed the poor, welcome the immigrant and refugee, love your neighbor. When evangelicals live up to Jesus' core messages, then that feeling will go away. And that's true. You just have to, I mean, you just have to be like the Jesuits are, right? Like the current pope, right? Now he has some issues still with LGBTQ stuff, but even that he's moderating himself on right now. So yes, it's important. It is important, and I'm glad you brought that up, Senor. I'm glad you brought that up. But let's be frank, let's be honest here. Evangelicals who profess to be Christians are not living Christian lives. They're not following the Christian tenets. They are some of the most hateful people there are. Just go to an abortion clinic. I tell you what would have been. Let's say you don't like abortion, and you go to an abortion clinic where a lot of women are marching in. If you had that soul, and I've done a lot of videos at the abortion clinics here in Houston to see the vile that comes across those people, right? But just think about how it would be if you said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry that you're going through this. Help the person go through it, and then talk about how can I make your life better so that this you won't have to go through this trauma again." But that's not what they do. They don't say let's support policies so that a family can be sufficiently economically viable that they don't need to ever consider aborting a fetus. They don't do things like that. They don't want to have the tax breaks for the families or the general income for the underpaid folks so that they can live. But at the same time, they want to enforce their rules on them, right? I have a friend who is adapting Republican orthodoxy right now. She is adapting Republican orthodoxy. This particular young lady, all her kids are on government assistance for schooling. All her kids are on government assistance for feeding, government assistance for health care. But she loves the evangelical mantra, not realizing that they don't stand for anything she believes in, right? Let's see. So-called homeschool, no thanks. Let's see what else we have here. Lindsey Graham will say whatever is necessary to make more money. True. But I think Trump has something on Lindsey. Daniel says, I am not racist. I have black friends, right, Egberto? Daniel, you are not a racist at all. I don't really think you're a racist, even though you say some very racist crap. And I think a lot of times you do it because you think you're going to get a jive out of me. But you see that the problem is I do know you, right? I actually do know you. And I know that a lot of this stuff that you do, I know why you do it. Okay, Paul Fleming says the judge in DC is not afraid of putting Trump in jail. If he can't control himself, stay tuned. I hope he throws butt in jail. Bridge MCP says after today, Rump signed the agreement to shut up. Robert Davenport says, "Pity the fools; they're not worth anyone's hate." Hey, you remember that Davenport, the pity the fools? That was Mr. T, right? Yeah, Mr. T. Anyway, Michael Rudden says Eric Hayes. Yep, about that. Trump both overall and overvaluing his properties for financial gain were crimes that the New York AG, Attorney General, might prosecute soon, which it should. Paul Fleming says, just tell the evangelicals that Jesus is a person of color, then you'll see how much really care about Jesus, which they don't just based upon how they cheat their neighbors of different colors. Oh boy, that's funny. All right. Brit says, Michael Rudden and Eric Hayes, yep, about that. Trump both overvaluing and undervaluing his properties and financial gains were crimes that the New York agency will prosecute. Yes, they will. Are you shaming him for his sexuality? Is what Lee Grant's asking. No, I'm not shaming him for his sexuality. In fact, if Lindsey Graham were to come out and say I am gay, I mean, I think he would. To put it bluntly, I think he'd get more votes around the country for president because finally they say, "Oh, you're human." All right. Evangelicals love money, wealth. They believe that God loves the wealthy, mega rich, etc. Well, there's this stuff called the prosperity gospels, right? Eric Hayes replying to British MCP, just bring more, I will read it. Just bring to the point who's concerned. I mean, really, this is political versus rule of law, not true. Tom C says, have C Washington Post 824. One of two. The average doctor in the US makes 350,000 a year. US physicians are making about 50% more than German doctors and about more than twice as much as UK doctors. Egberto, check before posting on the screen. This one might be too harsh to show. Okay, I'll check it out before I copy it to the screen. Let me take that off the screen for starters, and I'll put it on and see what it says. Are you going to get me in trouble, Mr. Rudnin? The teachings of Jesus: feed only those that look like us and pass the drug test. Give your money to those who are wealthy. The rich and the powerful shall inherit the earth. Do not kill unless they really deserve it. Do not. Do not. No, 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 no. The teachings of the Republican. Actually, I don't think that's and my Republican friends. This is not for the ones who are truly Christians. These are the ones that are for play Christians. I wish that's what the topic had said. Play Christians. That's what this one is for. B. Johnson says, awesome interview. Thank you so kindly. The second one of two for Tom C says, the United States has fewer doctors per person than 27 out of 31 member countries tracked by the OECD, and 31 out of 31 with the fewest primary care physicians, generalists, 3.1 per 10,000 residents. It's a shame, but we understand why. We absolutely understand why. Daniel Lado says, Robert Davenport, thank you so kindly for your support. He says, power to progressives. We are the true patriots. You've got that right. We are the true patriots. We are the ones that support everybody else. Thank you very much for your super chat. Thank you so kindly, Robert Davenport. Who's going to follow Davenport and give us a super chat? Thank you, Davenport. Daniel Lado says, all people hate. Egberto tell us 5 days a week who and what conservatives hate. It's a lot. I wonder if Egberto can list off some of the people and groups of progressives hate. Yes, I could. Do you want me to? They hating conservatives. Progressives hate conservatives who hate. Progressives hate people who harm, people who do bad things. That's who they hate. Now, I am a different type of progressive. I hate no one. And I've had to teach myself after I see those who hate not to hate. It's a learned proposition, something that you have to work hard to learn. All right. I'm running out of time here. I'm running out of time. Eric Hayes says Battle Orange guy could be out of shot. Brief says Michael Rundon, Eric Hayes, hate has been around since forever. Hate becomes socially acceptable in some segments of our politics. True. Lee Grant says progressives are judgmental. Yes, they are. They are judgmental. I won't argue with that. Why isn't, but also are conservatives, but we'll go into that in a different day. Anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. It's 359. 359. I want to thank all of you guys for being here at Politics Done Right. I couldn't do this stuff without you guys. You guys are wonderful. Let me just tell you straight up. Both my conservatives and today we have a good balance. My conservatives and my progressives are great, great, great people. Now, let me tell you something, though. We're going to continue this journey of understanding, all right? Please remember to support our program. How can you support us? You can support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. There's the link, politicsdoneright.com/support, or you can give a super chat like our brother Davenport has just done. But we cannot continue doing this without your wonderful and great support. politicsdoneright.com/support has all the different ways in which you can support this project. This is a project designed not only to give you 2 live shows a day, but also to write blogs, videos, books, all the works to move the progressive message forward. We cannot do this unless it is funded by you. And you guys have been great. I cannot tell you how great you are. Please support the program. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.